This week on the Four Rivers Ag Report, well, the weather outside is frightful, but commodity prices are delightful. And the soil and water management show is a go, so let us... No, I'm sorry, I can't say that. That and much more on the Four Rivers Ag Report. Hello and welcome to the Four Rivers Ag Report. I'm Fred Peralta. It's been a while, but we're back and hopefully you are too. But if you're not here, who is? Anyway, the holidays are over and January is finally acting like January, and it's time for farmers and agribusiness people to start thinking about what comes next. Unless you have a crystal ball, and we really don't know what's going to happen when we plan our grain marketing. Luckily for us, we know some people who are less confused than we are. Last month, I headed up north to the Farm Economic Summit, and we talked to Darrel about what the experts are thinking.
Well, recently we've been in a crop market at extremely high prices, stemming from a combination of relatively small crops harvested here in the U.S. last fall, and combine that with decent demand for these commodities, particularly in the domestic market. Mm-hmm. So we're looking at a situation where we have pretty tight inventories of corn and soybeans, and as a result we've pushed prices to very high levels. Now more recently we've seen prices begin to weaken somewhat for a couple of reasons. One, consumption is slowing down just a little bit, and the market is also now thinking that perhaps from a production standpoint 2012 will be a better year, that will harvest more acres, that will return to trend yields and have a more abundant supply of those crops. So prices have weakened in anticipation of that, and that's probably going to continue to be the case until proven differently.
Is that because producers have rushed to corn with those high prices?
We did see an increase in corn acres last year, and there is some expectation there will be another increase in 2012. The market prices kind of favor corn acres, and that's where we've had the strongest demand for the last 4 or 5 years. And so it looks like there is still a requirement for some additional acres. With some yield risk, the market might entice a few more acres than we really need, depending on how the yield turns out. But they have to manage that production uncertainty, and we may see pretty good acreage response next year.
So locally, when a farmer is looking at what to plant next year, you're hearing reports about South America, you're hearing reports about Ukraine. I heard read a crazy report that one field in Ukraine got 300 bushels an acre. So there's a lot more data to put into your equation as to what to plant, isn't there?
There is. For most of our farmers, the two crops they're going to look at, of course, are corn and soybeans, and the question becomes, do I change my rotation, move more towards one crop than the other? And a lot of factors influence that, but at the end of the day, it's kind of, what does the market tell me? What is the price level of those two commodities? What is it going to cost me to grow those two crops? And which crop really has a better profit potential? With that decision tempered a little bit by maintaining some type of rotation of those crops. But at the margin, it's really trying to forecast which crop will return the highest amount of money next year.
Okay. Now, we tend to look over the livestock producers in our area. What does the livestock prices tell us?
Well, right now we've got extremely high livestock prices, and kind of the adjustment that's been made in the last few years is we've seen some reduction in livestock production because of the high feed costs. And now we've reduced production enough, along with an uptick in export demand, that livestock prices are now very profitable. Livestock producers can afford to pay the higher prices for feed. So some reduction in output, some substantial increases in prices, and some return to profitability in the livestock sector.
So are livestock producers around here increasing the size of their stocks?
The data we have to date indicates they're not. We get a quarterly estimate of what the hog producers are doing. The next one of those will be released the end of December. And I think the expectation is that if current margins persist, that if not in the December report, then maybe in March, we will see some minor uptick in hog numbers. The decision on cattle is a longer-term decision, and what we've seen is a fair amount of liquidation of cow numbers in recent years, and that was accelerated in 2011 because of the extreme drought in the Southwest. So now we've reduced our production base that will take a number of years to recover. So we will be looking at smaller beef supplies for the next 2 or 3 years. Certainly the biofuels market has contributed to the higher prices. There's no question about it in my mind, and perhaps substantially in the case of corn. And so that higher price of corn and other feed ingredients then does have a domino effect in the livestock market. Initially, those higher prices mean that livestock producers are perhaps losing money feeding livestock. So the way they adjust to that is to reduce the level of output to try to support the price of livestock, and then reduce enough that prices come back to a profitable level. So that's exactly what we've gone through the last 4 years, and now we see livestock prices have fully adjusted, and that means that we're now looking at higher livestock prices and higher food prices as a result.
Okay, for corn producers, I mean, is corn for ethanol going to be, I imagine for the next several years it's going to be okay, but in the long term, should a farmer depend on that subsidy of corn, or will that go away eventually, do you think?
Well, we will continue to have what I refer to as a mandated level of biofuels production. Those mandates continue to grow a bit through 2015, and then they level out. So the way I read that is that we will continue to have good support for corn demand from ethanol, but it will not be growing at the rate that it has in the last 3 years. So we will see some leveling out there as we move into 2012 and beyond.
Okay, last question. What do you suggest a farmer looks at when he's making his planning decisions for next year?
Well, I think he has to, first of all, look at kind of the results from 2011 in terms of the real issue has become continuous corn acreage and some of the yield problems that sprung up in the last 2 years. And I think a farmer has to kind of get a handle on whether he had that problem and what caused it, and whether he wants to back off from planting corn on corn. And beyond that, it becomes one of pencil pushing, saying, what do I expect my yields to be, price and costs, and where do I think I can make the most money?
Yeah, I mean, planting corn on corn on corn on corn, eventually it doesn't make sense. So, you know, when do you roll the dice and go soybeans?
Right. I think that's an individual question each farmer has to ask is kind of have I reached that threshold yet or not on my farm? Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Darrell. I really appreciate this.
My pleasure.
Bringing a little bit of sunshine to an otherwise dreary day is our own Monica Becker with the Four Rivers News. Thanks, Monica.
Thanks, Fred. Archer Daniels Midland announced this week that they are planning on eliminating about 1,000 jobs worldwide in a cost savings move. But it's not entirely clear where the cuts are going to take place. The intent is to streamline ADM's organizational structure, but it appears that many of the cuts will affect jobs in Decatur. ADM is offering salaried employees in the U.S. a voluntary early retirement, but the company won't say how many positions that move would involve. ADM employs 30,000 people worldwide, 4,300 of them in Decatur. The federal government has been stress testing banks to see how they would thrive or just survive under changing economic conditions. It is possible to do the same thing with a farm. Todd Gleason reports the Farm Doc team has run the numbers on a typical grain farm in the state to see how they would do.
The Farm Doc team at the University of Illinois has gathered up all the numbers from the FBFM records. Now, FBFM stands for Farm Business Farm Management. It's a record-keeping service some farmers use. The aggregated numbers can provide insight to the economics of a farm and just what an average farm in the state looks like. Well, grain farm was used in the case of the stress test.
We looked at a typical Illinois farm, 1,200 acres, and looked at that, what incomes would look like if we had long-run prices of $4.50 corn, $10.50 soybeans, and those are the prices we sort of expect corn and soybeans to average over the next 5 years. If we have those in 2012 on our typical farm, we're looking at a net income of just at $83,000, which is close to the 2001 through 2006 average.
If the cash prices are dropped to $4 for corn and $10 for soybeans, that same farm just breaks even.
And if we go down to $3.50 corn price, we're at minus $40,000 of income. So those long-run prices put us closer to the 2001 through 2006 average, and from there we go down.
Well, the long-run cash prices of $4.50 for corn and $10.50 for soybeans are just about where most agricultural economists estimate the new midpoints will be. The previous plateau was about $2.42 for corn and $6.15 for soybeans. I'm University of Illinois Extension's Todd Gleason.
They say everything is bigger in Texas. Well, I'm sure the Texans would have liked this biggest to never have happened. 2011 was the driest year on record for Texas and the second hottest ever. The drought was responsible for a horrible year for farmers and livestock producers, with losses estimated in the billions of dollars. The National Weather Service predicts that La Nina weather pattern will mean that the drought in the Lone Star State will continue at least until the spring. And with the new year, there are a couple of new online tools that you might find helpful. One helps you reduce your belt size, the other increases your wallet size. The USDA is trying to help Americans keep their New Year's resolutions by making healthy food and activity choices by releasing the Nutrition Super Tracker. The Super Tracker is designed to assist people as they make changes in their life by making personalized recommendations as to what and how much to eat. It also can track food and physical activity, measure your progress, and help set realistic goals. You can find it at the USDA's website at choosemyplate.gov. And the U of I Extension Service is offering a crop insurance decision tool for providers to help calculate premiums, evaluate insurance payments, and provide historical data. The crop estimates are for 2012. This tool is available for download at the FarmDoc website. Now, there have been pig farms in Haverhill, Massachusetts since the 17th century. But as the Boston area has grown, Haverhill has become more and more populated, and some of the residents don't appreciate the ambiance that a sty can provide. A lawyer for a housing development downwind from a proposed pig farm said that allowing it could cause a financial disaster for his clients and residents. The Board of Health had a hearing and postponed voting on a ban on piggeries within the city limits after several farmers and their supporters showed up at a public hearing. There is no smell from pigs if they're taken care of properly, said pig farmer Tyler Kimball. So this little piggy gets to stay home for now. And that's it for this week. I'm Monica Becker for the Four Rivers Ag Report.
Well, I'm here with Dave Shiley of the Extension Office, and he's here to talk about the Soil Water Management Seminar. It's going to be held February 16th in Arthur. And Dave, what is the Soil Water Management Seminar, and why should farmers think about it?
Well, Fred, the Soil and Water Management Seminar is something we do annually, and it's going to be offered statewide. We are hosting that location in Arthur, and the program is really an opportunity for agricultural producers to learn and understand the most current research in soil protection and water management.
So it's not just in Arthur, though. It's going to be a webinar?
Yes, it's going to be presented via webinar and multiple locations throughout Illinois.
So if you can't get to Arthur or one of the other locations, you can sit at home in the comfort of your own man cave or office and view this, right?
Well, actually, you've got to come to that specific
excellent.
office,
Okay.
so you can check out those other locations on the web.
Okay,
Sure.
so get off your duff and get into
That's
the
right.
Okay,
That's right.
Okay, so who would benefit from this seminar?
Well, not only agricultural producers, but also certified crop advisors. And those certified crop advisors, of course, as they're well aware, they need continuing education units. And so this program does offer 4.5 units of soil and water management continuing education.
Excellent. So farmers and certified crop planners, advisors, well, what sort of stuff is going to be covered in this seminar, and why is it important that we worry about soil water management?
Sure. Well, one of the program areas that's going to be talked about is the use of biochar and soil quality.
What's biochar?
Biochar is taking some type of organic material and kind of like making a coal type product, charcoal, and then adding that to the soil to as a component of to sequester carbon.
Oh, okay. So it's a way of carbon capture that
that's right.
is helpful for everybody. I guess.
Right,
Okay.
and it's been going on for through in ancient time, and so but in terms of agricultural use, it hasn't been that widely used yet. And so you have an opportunity to hear what's going on in terms of research. Is it making an impact? The other thing that's really important that might be of interest is the use of biofilters. Biofilter is really a trap that can be hooked into a tile line to reduce the nitrates that might be moving through the tile line on into our surface water.
So it's a biofilter that a farmer would hook to their tiling system so that the nitrates don't end up in the drainage ditch?
That's right, and maybe perhaps eventually down in the Mississippi and then to the Gulf of Mexico. So it's in the ground, and so one of our researchers from campus is going to be talking about that.
Okay. What other topics are going to be covered?
One of the other topics that I think producers might be of interest, Dr. Angie Pelter is going to be talking about foliar diseases of corn and ways to manage that. So kind of getting ready for the upcoming season, what to expect and how to manage those diseases. We saw some of those last year, and so if this weather doesn't change a little bit, we might see,
Okay. So a real topic that I'm hearing a lot of chatter about is tillage practices.
Right.
Are you going to be anything talking about tillage practices?
Yeah, we're going to be talking a little bit about, Dr. George Sapar is going to be talking about some watershed research that's been going on related to tillage and its impact on movement of soil. So there'd be a good opportunity to hear what's happening with that Prairie Research Group.
So the Prairie Research Group, they're looking at no-till versus partial till versus strip till, and et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, well, they're looking at all those things, plus the use of buffer along the waterway, use of waterways themselves, looking at the entire watershed.
Okay.
And all those practices.
Okay. So a long day, but a lot of useful information. So,
yes.
Okay, you convinced me. I'll get off my duff and make it to this thing. February 16th in Arthur, but how do I register?
Yeah, you can just simply go to the University of Illinois Extension website at our Coles Unit 19 website. You'll see a little icon on the right side that says register. You'll click on that. It does cost $45. That includes lunch.
Okay.
And some refreshments for break.
Yeah.
But
I like the cookies.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay, so that's the Soil Water Management Seminar, February 16th in Arthur. Dave, thank you so much for talking to us about it.
You're welcome.
Check the website and make sure you register. I, for one, am not too sad to see 2011 in the rearview mirror, but Cameron Craig just had to look back on the weather we experienced in Under the Four Rivers Sky.
2011 is behind us and has been a year full of weather events, from above average rainfall in the spring to drought conditions in the summer. Not to forget the significant winter storms we experienced and a record-breaking heat wave. The January average temperature was 25.3 degrees, putting it 3.3 degrees below the 30-year average of 28.6 degrees. Total precipitation for the month was recorded at 0.84 inches, down 1.6 inches from the 30-year average. January was a big snow month with 8.9 inches. February began with a major blizzard on Groundhog Day and cold temperatures, and the month ended with temperatures in the mid-60s on the last day. The average temperature for the month was 34.4 degrees, putting it 2.5 degrees above the 30-year average. Precipitation recorded was 5.82 inches, up 2.06 inches from the 30-year average. Snowfall measured 7.8 inches, mostly from the Groundhog Day blizzard. The average temperature in March was 45.2 degrees, up 3 degrees from the 30-year average, with precipitation totaling 2.82 inches, down 0.67 inches from 3.49 inches. April won the award for the highest rainfall for the year with 9.81 inches, putting it 6.07 inches above the 30-year average. The average temperature for the month was warmer than the 30-year average with 58.9 degrees, up 5.1 degrees. The average temperature for May was recorded at 64.6 degrees, holding near the 30-year average of 63.9 degrees. Precipitation also held near the 30-year average with 4.34 inches of rain, up 0.05 of an inch. June still produced above average rainfall with 5.21 inches, and the average temperature sat at 75.4 degrees, up 2.7 from the 30-year average. For the month of July, there were 19 days that the maximum temperature rose above 90 degrees, putting the average temperature at 80.9 degrees, up 4.2 degrees above the 30-year average. Precipitation held near normal with 4.01 inches, up 1/100th of an inch. The total precipitation recorded for August was just over 0.5 inch, down 2.82 inches. The temperature was still warm at 77.3 degrees, up 2.5 degrees above average. September began with a new record high of 99 degrees on the first day, breaking the 1943 high of 97 degrees. Although the month started very hot, the average temperature for the month held at 66.4 degrees, down 1.7 degrees. The rains began to return, putting the total precipitation at 2.89 inches, down nearly 0.5 inch from the 30-year average. The drought in central Illinois began to improve in the east in October, with a total of 3.53 inches, up 0.42 inches. The average temperature for October was 57.3 degrees, putting it 0.6 above the 30-year average. November was warmer than normal with 49.3 degrees, up 5.8 degrees. Precipitation also continued to help the drought situation throughout central Illinois, with 7.1 inches, up 3.92 inches. Warm temperatures continued in December, with the average temperature of 38.1 degrees, putting it 5.9 degrees above average, and precipitation was still plentiful, with 3.98 inches, up 1.3 inches. The year of 2011 was wetter than normal, with 50.87 inches, up 11.13 inches. Snowfall totaled 17.5 inches, up 2.7 inches from the 30-year average. Average temperature for the year was 56.1 degrees, up 2.3 degrees from the 30-year average. From ice storms in our region to tornado outbreaks in the south and heat waves to blizzard conditions throughout the United States, 2011 will be one for the history books with record-breaking heat and tornadoes.
There's been a lot of talk about the aging of the American farmer. And personally, I think aging is a good thing compared to the alternative. But you won't be able to go on forever, and technologists are wondering what they can do to help you. A technology company is thinking about farming, and they're not thinking big. Matter of fact, they're thinking small, fast, and cheap, not to mention robotic. The concept is based on swarm computing technology. The six-legged robots would communicate with each other while planting a field in a large group. You have a problem with one, you still got the other ones and you're still moving ahead. You would of course need a different robot for harvest, but hey, the farm implement business needs something to sell you, don't they? I, for one, welcome our robot overlord. Wait a minute, did I just say that? Anyway, it's something to think about. Well, that's it for this week. Work hard, be safe, and enjoy the beautiful sunsets. Oh, and Kelly, our prayers are with you. I'm Fred Peralta, and thank you for watching the Four Rivers Ag Report.